welcome to the Partnership Publishing Podcast. Today we are joined so fantastically by Jemma Robinson, our author at Days of Publishing. Welcome, Jemma.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. We've been really excited to have this conversation. It's been in the process now for quite some time because we are here not to discuss book one, The Stars That Guide You Home. We are here to launch your second published book, but the first installment of the Valkashan Prophecy series. Da, 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 da.
Hey, there it is.
There it is. For those that can see, I'm kind of sharing the book of the Valkashan Prophecy and the beautiful cover and the shimmering details that we
It's
have.
gorgeous. Such a nice cover.
It really is, and perfect for the fantasy, adventure, genre, drama, action packed book that this really and truly is. So perhaps before we kind of get into it, if you'd like to maybe share just a little bit about yourself for those that are new to you as an author. Yeah, a little bit about Jemma Robinson.
So I work in the library service. We're called customer service assistants, but say library assistant sounds a bit nicer. Yeah, so I work in the library service. So surrounded by books all the time. So that's a good thing. My books are in the libraries, so that is
Mm,
also very exciting. It's very
really.
weird when you go to work and people take the book out right in front of you. I usually run away at that point, especially when they come back. I don't like to, but I get good feedback, so that is good. It's just
Yeah.
I struggle with getting the feedback, but it is nice. It's just weird to see the books there, but in a way, it's really good.
Yeah, in the best way. Weird and
Yeah,
best.
in the best way, yes.
Yeah.
I am a animal mum to many different animals.
Yeah.
Got my two dogs, two rabbits. I'm pointing because I'm trying to figure out where they are. Two dogs, two rabbits, two rats, which
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
some people don't like, but they're my babies,
Yeah.
and two
Yeah.
guinea pigs who live downstairs. Yeah, because I
Wow.
used to work in animal rescue, so I
Yeah.
acquire I acquire a lot of
Animals.
animals.
Yeah.
So yes, and I love them all. They're my
Yeah.
babies.
It's a lovely
Um,
quality. I know we were just talking about the love of animals, and yeah, we match that. And you forever seem to be, yeah, dog walking, like we were just saying, cleaning out
I'm not
rabbits.
looking after my own. I'm looking after other people's.
Yeah.
So yes,
Yeah.
I get to
Special.
I love it. I love looking after any and all. And there's not an animal that I don't like. I don't
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
anything. Give anything a go.
Yeah.
So,
No.
yeah, there's not much that makes me freak out. Yeah, like I say, my rats are a sticking point for a lot of people, but
Yeah.
um,
But they, like you
yeah,
say, they're
I
your
saw a video
babies.
recently of a man who walked around with it on his shoulder, and I genuinely would do that. That is
Yeah.
the type of thing I do. My little one that passed away, that he was nearly 3, I think, when he passed away, but he was brilliant. He was such a
Yeah.
sweet, and he
So,
just sweet little boy, and he'd sit on my shoulder. So yeah, when I saw that man walking around with his, I was like, I'd do that. That's the type of thing I'd do, just to get people to understand that they're not scary. They're
yeah.
actually very cute.
Do you know,
Um,
I don't know, I've never actually asked you this question, but do they kind of help with forming characters and things like that? Obviously, your natural then passion based on, well, you're a sports enthusiast and you've, yeah, got incredible kind of connection with your fan accounts as well. Maybe we can talk a little bit about that, but you've
yeah, yeah,
also, your passion of writing, do characters kind of come from animals?
I think in both books, there's an animal, but the dogs in both. But my the one in the first book, so the dog in the first book was, I always wanted a dog in it, but I wasn't sure on what type of dog. And then
Mhm.
I was working at animal welfare at the time, and this he must have been like I want to say Lecture cross Irish Wolfhound, so like this
Oh,
big
wow.
fluffy and I was like, that's it, that's the dog. That
Yeah,
is the
that's
dog in my
yeah,
first one.
yeah,
And then the dog that's in this one was always based on my friend's little dog who has passed away now, bless him. But yeah, scruffy little Jack Russell.
yeah,
So yeah, so you do get a lot of inspiration from kind
yeah.
of like animals and things like that.
That's amazing.
Nature and
Yeah,
all sorts of things. So yeah.
amazing. And so, how would you say that you kind of you'd written book one?
Mhm.
Where
Are we
did
talking? Are we talking? Because I wrote that before I wrote Valkashan
yeah,
Prophecy before I wrote
yeah,
Stars.
yeah.
So
So
we're
how
talking.
long exactly? So how long has the Valkashan prophecy been written, developed? Where did the idea come from? Um, I find it incredibly fascinating to talk to you about this.
I think it's harder with this one because I genuinely think this one just came from my brain, from my mind. I don't think it had a particular thing, whereas Stars had very much based on the Tudor period, and I was watching the Tudors at the time, and I got the idea based on that.
Mm,
Um, it was watching the Tudors for Stars. It was the relationship between Henry VIII and Sir Thomas More, and kind of having this person like Sir Thomas More very much looked up to and had seen Henry VIII growing up, but
mm.
didn't necessarily agree with his kind of views and things like that.
Okay, yeah.
But at the same time needed to stay on his side because he didn't want his head chopping off, you know. So, and I
Yeah.
found that a very interesting relationship of
Mhm.
like this mentor and this king, and
Yeah,
how so that's kind of how Stars came about. The Valkashan Prophecy, this is genuinely, I am not sure where it came from. It just
yeah.
popped into my head one day. I think it's my
Amazing.
ADHD brain. It was just
Yeah,
like there, and there was an ending to it, and I thought, right, okay, if the ending's there, I can get to the end.
yeah.
So, but I've always liked fantasy things,
Mm,
foresty things,
yeah.
magical things, and it was kind of a amalgamation of like all that kind of thing. I think like I've always read those types of books with like prophecies and magic
Mm,
and things like that. I read a lot of like Cassandra Clare, which isn't quite the same, but she does deal in
yeah,
a lot of like
yeah.
fantasy kind of elements and things. So I feel with the Valkashan Prophecy, it genuinely just came from my love of those type of
Mm.
books, and then the idea just sprouted in my head one day, and then we developed it from there.
It's
So yeah,
amazing. And genuinely for people that are listening, watching this, um, we're not talking, a storyline, a story arc that's beginning, middle, end. We're talking subplots, we're talking world building with this book. As publisher, we enthralled upon the opportunity to build the map of your world. So we now have a map. Again,
yeah,
for those
love
that
it.
can see. So we
I love
really,
the map. I
really
think
built
it
that
really
in.
brings it to life.
Yeah. And this only gets enhanced because, please note, this is the first installment. It is part one.
That one,
This is a juicy big book. There's a lot going on.
hefty.
It really, really is. So just to quote the blurb, to kind of set the scene, the Valkashan Prophecy is an enthralling fiction fantasy novel written by Gemma Robinson. In this captivating tale, readers are whisked away into a world filled with romance, love, brutality, torture, and epic battles. As the prophesied events unfold, the characters face unimaginable challenges and embark on a thrilling journey that tests their strength, loyalty, and determination. With Gemma's masterful storytelling, readers will be captivated by a gripping plot, intricate world building, and richly developed characters. Prepare to be spellbound by the Valkashan Prophecy, Part 1, as it takes you on an unforgettable adventure through a world where love and war collide.
You make me sound really good.
This is what we are talking about.
It is hefty. it's hefty. I mean, when you put it next to stars, they're in a similar like
Yeah,
chunkiness, but
yeah.
then that's still got another, half to go.
Half.
So
It's
that's
got
yeah,
part
yes.
two. Yeah. It's it really is a brilliant book. And without giving too much away, so we've talked a little bit about, I guess in a way, the non-inspiration of where the story came from. We're not
It's
sure
my
where
head.
it arrived, and how incredible to kind of have. I always find with your writing, there's such a natural narration, there's such a natural tone with your writing. Um,
Mhm.
with character development, let's just kind of talk about the characters a little bit. Alina is a compelling protagonist with a unique journey. How did you find her character kind of developed along the way? Um, what aspects of her personality do you maybe relate to the most, or how did you find kind of her character being developed interesting for you?
I always like to I think as well because I write from character perspective, I think it makes it easier to get into the characters' heads.
Mm,
So it's it's obviously it's different characters throughout the book.
yeah,
So when you're in that character's head, I think it's a lot easier
yeah,
to understand kind of what they're
yeah,
going through.
yeah.
Um, she can be a bit awkward, but then at the same point, she's also kind of got this like inner strength. But
Mm,
with I kind of like to reverse it a bit and have the the male characters be a bit more emotionally vulnerable and things
yeah,
like that, and the female characters not be
stronger.
stronger, but have that kind of inner
Mm,
strength thing. I kind of like to flip it on its head a little bit,
mm,
but I
mm,
feel like all of the characters have got an inner
mm,
strength and also a vulnerability.
mm.
And I kind of just like exploring that with every character. That's why it's fun to write it from
Yeah,
different character perspectives
yeah,
because you do you get into their heads and
mm,
you kind of understand it and you kind of think how they would say something, and then you're able to write it a bit easier. I think for me that's how it feels. I think it's nice to give each character a different voice, and I feel like
yeah,
the easiest way to do that is to write from their different
mm,
perspectives because
mm,
then I'm in their heads
yeah,
and thinking
yeah,
what they're thinking. Um, so yeah, I love all of the characters in it. There's a few characters who are my favorites, but they're in this book, but they'll come into it more in the second half.
oh,
My favorite
okay,
characters. So
interesting.
sometimes it's weird. Sometimes I like the smaller characters who you don't
Yeah,
feel are gonna make
yeah,
that big of an impact, but they actually are really
yeah,
important to the story.
yeah,
So yeah, like I said, that my favorite characters in it aren't necessarily in it a lot in this book,
yeah,
but come to the
they
fore in
come.
book two. So I'm very excited for people to read it and
I
get
know.
to know the characters.
Yeah, me too. Us here, yeah, we cannot genuinely wait. The relationship dynamics in the book, particularly between Alina and her parents, can be quite intense. How do you approach kind of writing the scenes? So, do you visually see it play out? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm a visual person. I've always said I see it like a film in my head, which is why most of the characters have an
Mm.
actor. Actor? Yeah,
I-
they have a reference point,
Yeah. Yeah.
so that I can see it.
Mm.
Because it does play out like film in my head, and then I find it easier to write that way. So they all kind of have a reference point. Like Alina's dad was always Brian Blessed,
Yeah. Oh,
because I
amazing.
love Brian Blessed.
Yeah.
I am related to Brian Blessed, very, very, very
Ah,
far
dimly.
removed, but
Yeah.
it makes me very happy that that is a fact of my life that I am actually related to him, which I didn't know when I had him in mind for this book. It was
Oh,
just very
no
exciting to
way.
find that out afterwards. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, that
but
is
it's
cool.
always been Brian Blessed for
Mm,
Hair Dad. Just
yeah.
this big,
Yeah.
warrior type with a
Yeah.
beard, and just yes,
Yeah.
it's easy, when it's in my head and I'm writing it and I can see that,
Yeah.
makes it a lot easier. Some characters maybe not as much,
Mm.
maybe more but I just see them kind of as a character, but I find that the characters who I know are playing them,
Yeah.
I find it easier to write.
Yeah.
It's
And I definitely say from a reader's perspective, so as you're reading the book, and I would encourage anyone who's listening to do so,
please.
um, when you're reading, you do get that feeling of you can see it because of the description, because you're there. It's a very easy read based on the complexities of the narrative as well, that you're taken on this journey, and it is an extremely enchanting story. So you can see it play out based on the description. So I definitely recommend, again, for anyone that loves reading books like this, in the fantasy genre, you will not be disappointed. You have descriptive text, you've got depth to the world, and it's there, and you can see it as you're reading it, you can see it play out in front of you. um Swiftly kind of moving into themes, the messaging, kind of intertwined subtly throughout the adventure and the story. It touches on themes like fear, destiny, a struggle for freedom. Um, do you feel that you had like a particular route when writing the story to kind of explore certain themes that might have been more important to you? And if so, um, kind of, yeah, maybe why they were. Yeah.
It's hard. It is, and it's a lot harder with this book than it was for Stars, because
Mm,
just because this was like a full figment of my imagination. So
mhm,
kind of like whatever came to my head. But I think with fear, anxiety, things like that, because I've got anxiety,
mm,
um, think it's a helpful thing to write about it. And I
yeah.
feel that when you've been through it, you understand it a bit more. So
Mhm,
to get it out, not only is it a release to get it out into
mhm,
something like writing, but also you understand it so you can write it
yeah.
well, hopefully.
Yeah.
So I think with those, like with fear, with anxiety, things like that, with sadness,
Mm,
anything like that. I'm quite a dark writer. I've always
yeah.
felt I'm quite dark. I very much have to force myself to write the happy bits,
y-
because I seem to write really depressing stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe not so much in this one. Get ready for part two. That's
Yeah.
all I'm
Part
saying.
two.
But
Mm,
but definitely Stars was like, again, there was a lot of dark stuff in Stars, and I feel in the
yeah.
second half of this one as well. But again, I think that's to do with anxiety and low mood
Yeah.
and things like that. I think
Yeah.
if that's what you're feeling, and writing is a release for that, I think that's kind of
Yeah.
what does come out on the page.
Mm,
So yeah, but then I also like writing the more humorous bits. Like
mm,
Merith is a character who I enjoyed because he
mm.
is quite quippy, and he
Love
likes to
that.
make,
Yeah.
jokes and things like that, and that's not my usual thing, so it was quite
Mm,
nice to explore kind of
yeah.
that side of a character. Um, so yeah, it's it's a case of looking at the themes and trying not to go too far, and to
Yeah.
bring it back if it's getting too far. And I feel like I do hit a
Do.
balance.
Yeah. No.
Um, so but yeah, I feel with me, I just write kind of what comes to me. I've always said I write all the bits that come into my brain, the interesting bits first. I write all of those bits first, and then I merge it together. I write the little
Yeah.
fillery bits in the middle that
That's
aren't
interesting.
necessarily as important, but you need
Yeah.
them to jump from bit to
Yeah.
bit. So my writing is a bit chaotic, but I feel that kind of matches my vibe. I
Yeah.
think I'm quite a chaotic person naturally, so
Yeah.
I feel like my writing style does, yeah, it works with my
Reflects.
vibe.
Yeah. No, I do. I can understand as much as I can, and from reading your book, it comes through. I think, and they are subtle themes. It's not ever a forced upon theme, which is quite interesting, because I know that some fantasy you can be kind of thrust upon this really obvious theme, and you're like, okay, we get the
Mhm.
point now. With this, it's very subtle, and there's a mixture. And like you say, a lot of the characters have that light and dark in them. You can play with the
Yeah.
vulnerabilities and
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
strengths within them.
Yeah.
Every character kind of has that approach and that kind of um seamless equality, I guess, in a way, the way that you've developed them all. Um, you hinted earlier you prophecies. So naturally, the Valkashan prophecy, the inspiration of, I guess, or the concept of a prophecy and a chosen one is central to many stories. How did you find putting your unique spin on this? Um, obviously, encourage your series. Again, this is just part one. There's a second part,
That
but
one.
within this book, yeah.
What was the question again?
Okay. The prophecy. So the kind of the
Yeah.
concept of the prophecy, where that came.
Um, I liked the idea of s- I think it came from, I don't know if the prophecy came first or the whole what happens to Alina at the start of the book
Yeah.
then became kind of the prophecy. I don't know if the prophecy as the prophecy of what it's foretelling was
Mm.
actually there. I knew that I wanted
Okay.
something to happen.
Yeah.
Um so it was a case of kind of like figuring out what that thing would be. But
Yeah.
at the same time, she's learning to understand it as the book goes
Mhm.
on. It's
Yeah,
something
I
that
love
she doesn't
that.
understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, she doesn't understand it. Nobody fully understands it.
Mm.
It's just words that have been written on a paper by a soothsayer. It's not it's it's just all like bits and pieces that she has to piece together, and perhaps is it's it's not something set in stone. Like what
Yeah,
happens, there is a girl that will, become the one to,
yeah, yeah,
defeat the evil
yeah,
dictator.
yeah,
But how it comes about is more
yeah,
her journey, and
yeah,
it's more of a thing of the prophecy is there, but does finding the prophecy help her to become the person that she was meant to be? It's kind of like a
yeah,
two-way
yeah, like
thing.
chicken and egg thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm,
yeah. So it's not all this is all happening because it's meant to be
mm,
happening. A lot
mm.
of it is she makes her own
She's
destiny,
making it.
kind of.
Yeah, yeah, I get that.
So I feel like a bit like what's said in there, it is just words on a piece of paper. It
Mm,
is that's all
mm,
it is, and
yeah,
it's kind of because I'm big on spiritualism, like the universe and things
yeah,
like that, and the universe. If you ask for things, the universe will
provides.
give them to you, and that has happened to me so many times. I fully believe in it. So I do feel a lot of it is she's making her own destiny,
Mm, mm,
even though this prophecy is hanging over it. And I feel as you go further into the
mm,
book, right through to the end, that
mm,
becomes a lot more obvious.
mm,
I didn't
mm.
want the prophecy to be this big whole thing of
Yeah,
this is it, this
yeah,
is why. I wanted
yeah,
there to be things that she discovers and the reader discovers at the same time.
yeah.
So
You're learning as she's learning. And
yes,
yeah, that spin and that take on it was so refreshing. And it makes it then become the page turner that it is, because you're needing to find out, you're needing to go on the journey with her. So yeah, thank you for that. That was, yeah, really great to find out a little bit more. So without giving too much away, I'm mindful
mhm,
of our time. Um, what can readers expect in the future installment? Obviously, knowing that they're going to be investing in part one. What can we expect within the penultimate? Naturally, we understand that there's going to be some form of conclusion.
mhm.
But what can you share a little about that?
It's going to ramp up a lot. There's a lot of ramping up.
Yeah.
What the prophecy is, why it relates to her, that's all gonna become more to the forefront. But as well as that, there's gonna be little, hopefully, bits that you're not expecting. So
Mm,
you're
okay.
focusing on the prophecy and her journey and things like that. But I'd like to say that there's a few things that are unexpected,
Okay.
um, which will shock you, hopefully, and also make you happy. They make me happy. I quite like the bits that, because like I said, they weren't necessarily bits that were meant to be there, but then as I
Yeah.
was writing it, it was like, okay, no, that actually works.
Yeah.
So
That's
yeah,
staying.
there's a lot more heartache. You're
Mm,
gonna have to go on a ride with her, I think, with
yeah.
Alina, definitely, and Joe. I mean, all of the characters really. You're gonna go on a ride with them, but
Mm.
I hope that by the end of it, you will feel you'll feel happy, you'll feel sad, you'll feel all sorts of things by the time
Yeah.
you get to the end of it. There's a hell of a lot still to come, with some characters that you haven't fully met yet who I love. And yes, there's lots. You are gonna, yeah,
We're
enjoy
going
it.
to
You
be on
just
an
need to sit.
emotional roller coaster.
My books are an emotional roller
Yeah.
coaster. A lot of people's yeah.
The best ones
Um
are, and for the adaptations, again, what we can see visually is it playing out as like a movie in front of our eyes as we get invested in the characters. We want to know what happens to them. We care about them. It's natural that we would, yeah, kind of go on that emotional roller coaster journey with them all. So
Yeah, and that's
exciting.
definitely what is gonna happen. And
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of this book sets it up. But
Yeah.
it's not all set up. There's a lot of things that happen in this book.
Yeah.
There is a lot, but you are building up to that big
Mm.
part
You get
of
invested.
understanding the prophecy fully
Yeah.
and understanding Alina's role in it. And yes, you're coming to that point. So in book
Mhm.
two, all of that will be explained.
And so much to look forward to. Um, It is such a good book. Who would you say are some of your favorite authors? Maybe perhaps some books that might have influenced your writing style or yeah,
Favorite authors and
or films maybe or kind
yeah,
of
I mean, one of my favorite book adaptations is Me Before You by Jojo Moyes. I adore
yeah,
that book and
yeah.
film. Um, I think that's one of the books that I've
Mm,
cried at numerous
mm, mm,
times.
mm.
The Hunger Games, which
Yeah,
I feel the Hunger Games and this there's some not a hell of a lot of similarities, but there
mm,
are similarities there
yeah,
in like
yeah.
the genre and things like that. So I think in terms of inspirations for this book, that's
Mm,
probably where I'd be looking, because I
mm,
feel when I was writing this,
mm.
those were the books that I
You kind of
was
reading, yeah.
reading. But I also really like, which is a completely different genre to what
Mhm.
I write, but I absolutely wish I could write it. But Bella Mackie, How to Kill
Ah,
Your Family,
family,
is
yeah.
is just a brilliant book,
Genius.
and I'm very
Yeah.
much looking forward to her second one coming out, which I think
Ah,
is end of this year. So because I
yeah.
think she's just a
Soon.
really witty, funny writer.
Mm, yeah.
And again, writes from character
Mhm.
perspectives, which is what I enjoy. Kind of like I
Yeah,
say, I enjoy writing it, I enjoy reading it, because
yeah,
you can see it from that character's
yeah.
perspective.
You get in
So
their head, yeah,
get in their head. So yeah, I definitely think inspirational in kind of that way, just
in the
because I
writing
like to
style.
see people who write
Mm,
similar to how I do in
mm,
terms of becoming that character and
yeah,
being in that character's head.
yeah.
So yeah.
No, love it. Thank you. If you could give one piece of advice to any kind of aspiring writer slash author, um, what would it be?
I'd say just keep going. I
Mhm,
always say, because I've got a couple of friends who enjoy writing,
mm,
and I think if you can see the end of where you want to get to, it doesn't
yeah,
matter
mm,
how long it takes you to
mm,
get there. I mean, this one took like 7 years to
yeah,
write. So
yeah,
but I always knew what the end was going to be. So
yeah,
in my head, if I know what the ending is,
yeah,
I'm gonna get there.
yeah,
So, and
yeah.
again, don't necessarily feel you have to write in the right order. Like my
That's
friends, bless
interesting.
them, with stars, felt like they'd read a completely new book when they actually read the book as a book. Because
Ah,
I always were like, oh, you just read this and tell me what you think, and it was all in completely the wrong order. Like
mm,
they'd get some from right near the end, then they'd go jump back to the beginning. So they
yeah,
basically said when we got the actual book, it did feel like a completely new book, just because we'd read it in
because
such
of
a random
how
order.
yeah,
So. I feel like if you've got an idea, write it down.
Yeah.
I've always said that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I always remember I love the Bee Gees because
Mhm.
I'm so cool. I'm very cool. And I
Absolutely.
once remember Barry Gibb had an idea for a song, and it was in the middle of the night. It was like 2 a.m., something like that, and he had to get up and record it. Like even just
Wow.
the tune of it, he had
Yeah.
to record it because he was like, if I go back to sleep now, I'm not gonna
Yeah.
remember it. And
Yeah.
he got up and he recorded just the tune, the humming, the tune,
Mhm.
and he did that so that he had it. So I feel like if you've got something in your head, write
Yeah.
it down. Because
Um,
I've made the mistake sometimes of going, "Oh, I'll do that later," and it's never as good as when
Never
it's in
there.
my head at that moment. So
Yeah.
I feel if it comes to you, it doesn't matter what time it is, just get something written down
Ah,
and just enjoy it. I think it's not. It can
big
feel
thing.
like a chore, like I say, if you're trying to write something and it's not coming. I
Yeah.
think if it feels like a chore, don't do it. Do
Yeah.
it when it's there, and it doesn't
Yeah.
matter how long it takes,
Yeah.
and you'll get there in the end. I think. Yeah.
Words of wisdom, people to live by. Definitely. I agree wholeheartedly. When the flow is there, let it keep running
Mhm.
with it. When it isn't,
Yeah.
don't force it. And
Yep.
ultimately, yeah, it's a passion project and enjoy it. Enjoy it as
And go
much as
back and
possible.
rewrite, if you go back and read
Hmm.
it and don't think it's quite good, you go, "I could add something," just go back and rewrite it.
Yeah.
Do you know it? It's
Yeah.
just let it be fluid, I think. Don't keep it
Yeah.
so structured, I think. Just
Yeah.
write because you enjoy writing,
Yeah.
and then,
Comes
it
through
should
in the
come.
text. It then comes
Mhm.
through. Yeah.
Yeah,
Amazing. I love it. Okay, so the Valkashan Prophecy. It is available now. It is
it
available
is.
in Waterstones, Amazon. It is available. People can buy the book. In regards
Also
to people
available in libraries.
in libraries, schools, absolutely. People can purchase them, yeah, from all good book retailers and libraries. In regards to fan engagement, we have a bit of a following. You've had your first book. This is part one. There's going to be part two. For those that can follow Gemma, would you be able to just share where they can find you on Instagram, social media?
I am at Gemma with a J. This is with a J. Gemma with a J.
With a
J. So at Gemma Writes on Instagram.
yeah,
Um, Gemma Robinson, author on Facebook,
yeah,
and I can't remember what my Twitter/X one is.
yeah.
It's
Gemma
something similar to
Robinson.
that. I think it's Gemma Writes. I will just check.
Yeah,
Let's have a little look.
and please
Yeah,
do feel
Gemma_Writes on X.
perfect.
Yeah,
And
but they're all
please
pretty
do,
similar.
yeah, connect with Gemma, follow her. The social media campaign for the Valkashan Prophecy is going to be ramping up very, very shortly. There's going to be character descriptions, follow-ups, Q&As, questions, you name it. We will be sharing everything that we can about the Valkashan Prophecy reviews. Yeah, feedback, you will have it. If anyone would also like a copy to do a review, please do get in touch. We would love to be able to connect with you. And yeah, thank you so much, Gemma. We've made it.
Thank
You've made
you.
it
Thank you for
7
having me.
years in the making.
Yes, it's crazy, but I'm so glad it's finally out. One of my best friends is extremely happy it's out because she loves stars, but she was one of the first ones to read this, and this was her favorite. So I'm glad that it's
Amazing.
out now. So
Yeah.
yeah,
No, congratulations so much.
thank you.
From all of us here, we absolutely adore this book, this series. So excited that it's out and cannot wait to share it with everyone worldwide. And just, yeah, thank you so much for entrusting us to be your partner in publishing this with you. And we look forward to the exciting part two.
Yes, very exciting. No, thank you for all your help. You've been amazing.
No, thank you so much. Take care. And I'm sure we will be reconnecting on another podcast soon.
Yes, definitely. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.